you can hear from the blowers in the background that there's a lot of stuff going on at this property today. I'm here with my friend Roger that you guys have met before, designer extraordinaire, working his magic primarily on container plantings at this property today. So you're doing window boxes, saucer pots
yes.
on the pools, you know, plants on the patio. So talk to me, let's start out with this fabulous window box. This is incredible.
It is a great window box.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of an important focal point for the clients. They come and go. They see it every time they pull in or out of the driveway.
Yeah.
They see it from a distance. They can see it from the kitchen window.
Yeah,
if
their
they
door.
come out the back door, they see it
Yeah.
up close. So it really is something that they see every day. They probably see this more than they see the pots around the front door.
Yeah, and I have seen multiple versions of this that you have done over the years, and
it is always different every year. It's every season it's different.
But it's always lots of color. The client likes lots of color, and this year lots of texture and complexity, and you've added some edibles this year, which you know I'm all about.
I know. We've got some parsley. We've got the curled parsley and the flat leaf Italian parsley in here. And this window box stays relatively cool, so the parsley likes it here.
Yeah.
Even the little cyclamen, it's cool enough that we have had some of these live through the summer.
Oh, you are kidding.
And come back to revive in the fall.
Wow.
So that is amazing in Oklahoma summers.
That is truly amazing.
And we've used the Foxtail Fern. Sometimes it will come back. We did have boxwoods in here, but this last Arctic blast really cratered them. So I thought it was time for something fresh. This little heuchera is great. It's a perennial, so it'll give us. It's mostly in here for the foliage color, that little bright foliage. But we'll reuse that when it's past its prime in here. We'll put it in the beds.
Roger, and this typically makes a wonderful windowsill or window box planter plant, because I had a huge one in my front window box. I bet it was there for a dozen years until it bit the dust in this Arctic blast. But let's go, if you don't mind, would you describe plant by plant what all you have in here? And if you would, how do you determine? Do you work formulaically? How do you determine how many plants you need for an expanse?
It depends on the size of the plant, and I really don't. I sort of pre-plan.
Okay.
I mean, I know the color scheme I want. I kind of know some of the textures and the size that I need. And but I'll bring, and I always think I'm bringing more than I need. But most of it usually ends up in there. Right.
Yeah.
And I'll bring different plant material, because sometimes it just doesn't, when I'm picturing it, just doesn't work when I'm here on site.
Yeah.
So, but we did this year. I'm trying this Browallia for the first time.
Yeah.
It loves it full shade to part shade. And that's the nice thing about this particular client. The clients are gardeners.
Yeah.
And
she's a magnificent gardener.
Both of them are, and they like new things. They like experimentation. Yeah. So we can, and they know that plants are ephemeral.
Well, and what I love about this couple in particular is they're very engaged in their own gardening.
Yes.
So they don't just rely on you to plop it and take care of
Right.
it. They're out here. She's out here deadheading. He's out here watering. I mean, they're very, very one.
And they are, and she will plant, alongside us.
Yeah.
And I'll come in, and she's planted stuff or she's bought stuff. She'll pick up stuff, in her travels or when she's at a garden center or something like that. But we, especially since we've been working together for so long, we are in sync with each other.
Yeah.
And I will be out shopping for plants and know,
that's
her. Yeah, I need
her.
that for this particular client. And sometimes I'll be out shopping for plants and send her a text saying,
what about
go to this big box store because they've got all these, this particular plant that you love.
So let's talk a little bit. Okay, so how long? What do you think the dimensions of this are?
Probably 10 feet.
Okay, 10 feet. And the depth of it looks to be about a foot, about a foot deep, and about a foot wide.
Yeah, we probably have only about 8 to 10 inches
8 to
of
10
planting
inches?
space.
Okay. And then, so the construction of it, people always want to know about the construction of mine. This is really formidable. So this is very heavy. It's secured.
Yeah, it's really heavy cedar, big substantial brackets. Partly, I mean, that's also an aesthetic
Yeah.
decision,
Oh, absolutely.
from the architecture of the house. But then the best thing about it is it's lined with copper.
Wow.
So that really, so you don't have, really shouldn't have soil coming in contact with the wood anywhere.
Yeah. And in mine, I've got, Roger, as you know, I've got a metal liner in mine, but I don't have this lip. And this lip is really wonderful because it prevents any of that dirt from getting into the crevice between the liner and the wood itself. Okay, so let's talk.
And we do have, and it is on a drip irrigation
and it's a drip system.
Yeah.
So I would say in about a 24-inch section, we have Browallia, Foxtail Fern, 2 types of parsley, Cyclamen,
and the
heuchera, and then you've just repeated those at equal distances up and down the expanse.
Kind of. I mean, if you really stop and look at it, there are some variations. There's 2 heucheras and 1 Browallia, 2 Browallias and 1 heuchera. There's no heuchera here, but a white Browallia. So it does kind of change, but it is symmetrical.
And it has that wonderful design principle about rhythm and repetition of color and texture across the space for the overall impact of this. This is absolutely just brilliant. I love the color scheme. I'll love it even more once it matures in place. And then you will come back in the fall.
Well, we may, this is one where we monitor it, and if we have a really hot summer, the cyclamen might need to be replaced with something. And a lot of times, usually I would say we have ivy spilling over the front, but it's one of those, I woke up today, didn't feel like having ivy there. We've also had ivy in the back and let it grow through things, which was really kind of nice.
Well, and I think so there's flexibility of it, but then you have your certain fixtures that will endure till the next season that you can plant around. So this is really, really brilliant. Nothing really speaks to a cottage garden-y kind of charm, which this house very much has, like a window box. So would you take us to the back and show us some of the plantings there? So we're in the back now, Roger, in front of this adorable fairy tale guest cottage.
Isn't it great?
It's actually a pool house,
Right.
but it looks like a fairy tale cottage to me. And you've also filled these window boxes, which have replicated the design in terms of construction of the other one. Here you've got, boy, geraniums or pelargoniums are really having a moment, aren't they?
They are. But we don't use that many geraniums for most of our clients because if they're not deadheaded, they don't look that great.
Yeah.
But this garden, being a gardener's garden, we're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
She will deadhead. We're in and out of here often enough that we will. And these window boxes are not finished. There's still more planting to come.
Oh, wow.
It just wasn't they weren't
So
available now.
What else are you going to incorporate
Well, these
in here?
window boxes, we always have artillery fern.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's right, you do.
It's something that we started with a few years ago, and it's just such a beautiful plant to go in here. A lot of normally this time of year, because we're getting ready for Easter, we would have this full of big blue hydrangeas, but they were really hard to find this year. A lot of the growers, I mean the wholesalers that we buy from, and even some of the retailers just didn't have the inventory that we needed. So. And I think that's going to be a real problem this season for a lot of plant material.
Yeah. So if you guys are experiencing the same thing, please put in the comment sections below, because we have talked ad nauseum. I have talked ad nauseum about the hardest winter Oklahoma's ever had on record, and the challenges that we've all been experiencing in our landscape.
It's not just Oklahoma,
Well, yeah.
We get a lot of ground cover out of Louisiana. They were hit hard. Most of that will probably recover, but right now it doesn't look good enough for us to put in a client's garden. We were talking to suppliers in Texas who are saying that they're having problems with suppliers out of the West Coast because their businesses were hit so hard by COVID.
Yeah.
So there's a multitude of factors bearing down on that.
It's definitely a perfect storm. So if you're experiencing these same kind of challenges, as Roger said, it's not just Oklahoma, that tends to be our frame of reference, but really all across the South and parts of the heartland, California, everything. If you're experiencing those same kinds of issues where you live in your geographical location, if you would tell us what those challenges are and then basically how you are addressing those challenges, what kind of plants you're using you wouldn't normally use, and the fact I was talking to your counterpart John, and he was saying it's kind of a lost year in Oklahoma because we've got so much we have to recover from. So let us know what you're experiencing in your neck of the woods. I adore these. Can we move on to some different kind of container plantings?
Sure, but I want to mention
now?
one more challenge here, which will be interesting this year, is we lost almost half of this giant Japanese maple that shades this area, and the bald cypress that shades this area.
Yeah, Stuart, can you get some of this sweet, sweet foliage? This, oh my gosh, this was just the queen of the garden, well, one of many queens of the garden.
In this garden, right.
And you are so right, because now the aspect has changed, the growing conditions have changed, the microclimates have changed.
Right.
Yep. It's a challenge for sure, but we're all having them, so we can all commiserate together.
Right.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Let's move on to another area. So many pots, so little time.
Right.
That's the brilliance, I think, of doing all of your container plantings in one day, because the color thematic kind of is consistent around the garden, and you just have a ton of color and you just put it where you need it. These pots, you and I, a little bit of history, we worked together on this property years ago for a really large garden tour, and we introduced these huge concrete saucers cantilevered over the edges of the pool at these kind of punctuation points. Boy, they're beautiful, Roger.
Oh, they are. And there are 4 of these pots in the garden, because they're, 2 of them are sitting on pedestals on top of walls, and then these are just the bowl themselves on top of this low wall. And it really worked out so well, and it's fun to plant them. And again, like everything, they change every year.
Yeah.
But with these clients, we know their preferences, and these pots are not finished here either. These have always got to have big billowing blue Cape plumbago spilling out of it, and I just couldn't find any nice big plants yet this year.
But there'll still be
there's
lots
room. I've left room
of growth
for it.
on this. Talk to me about what's in here, because I love it. Roger this year is doing lots of edibles, lots of herbs and things in your container plantings. I spy some dill.
Well, this one we've got dill in here, and so it'll give us some height along with this Angelonia, and then it'll be a great foil once we get the plumbago in here. That'll give us a little more height and more volume. This Bacopa is great, plant for the heat. Some Sunpatiens, these are a compact variety. This Lobularia is great. Compact sun coleus here. And it's kind of the same, some of the similar color schemes that we were looking at in the window boxes. A chartreuse, white, pink, purple. It all fits in with that color scheme. And then the dill with that slightly bluish, ferny foliage will be great. And then when it blooms with that chartreuse, seed head. And of course, it's great for the pollinators, the swallowtail butterflies.
And this homeowner really loves a really gentle kind of wildflower garden that she loves poppies, things that kind of hover over the top. You've done a beautiful job on this.
The bed behind us in a few weeks will be just an explosion of bachelor buttons, larkspur, poppies. It is pretty glorious when this is all in bloom.
Yeah, glorious not just for us, but also for the pollinators.
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's move over to a completely different vibe. I challenge you, Roger, do you think you and I can scale this wall?
Well, this is one of those pools I know I'm going to fall into one day when I'm working here. Yes.
So far, so good.
Duck under the rose of Sharon.
A completely different mood and vibe in this very organic, shady spot. I love, tell me, did your design firm do this, Roger?
Yes,
Years
John
ago?
did this. This Cantera stone is great. It's got just a beautiful texture, and then it just has this wonderful greenish patina,
Yeah.
you know, with age. It really, and it is so cool and shady. And we always do these bowls back here with the combination of the Scotch moss and the Irish moss.
Yeah.
Just very restful, very
yeah.
green, very calm.
One of my very favorite things, and I love that the containers themselves are having a wonderful dialogue.
Right. That's
with-
tufa stone, the tufa stone containers.
Yeah, really, really beautiful. And every year, while the other things are dynamic and changing in terms of color and such, these, you can always count on these to be here and be restful. And I look forward to seeing them every year. Just really gorgeous.
And as more foliage comes on, this is really a pretty hidden little area back here. So it is a pretty private space.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And look at this. Well, first of all, let's stop here for just a minute, because isn't these furnishings are just wonderful. It's almost got like like wooden branches, but with this marvelous
It feels like a vine
lace.
or a twig.
And then tell me about the cushions she puts on here.
Oh, they're a periwinkle blue. They're
Ooh.
just beautiful. They go with the whole color scheme that we're always working with in the
pool
garden.
too. Yeah.
It's just so beautiful and refreshing.
And look at this, just mammoth. So tell me about how enduring, this is Oklahoma, we're in the South. Tell me how long this will last, or does it just depend?
It depends on the maintenance, and to be honest, these are not on irrigation back here, so they're it really is kind of variable.
Yeah.
How long they last.
Yeah. The heat, it's like,
Right.
I think probably the answer to most questions about any kind of landscaping in Oklahoma, the answer is it depends. Depends on the heat, depends on the wind,
On the wind,
whether or
right.
not we're getting any rain.
Right.
Well, this is absolutely fabulous. I cannot thank you enough for sharing your expertise with
gee.
us and this beautiful property. And Stuart, if you would end on a note, if you can kind of just torque back that way towards the beautiful bird bath, which was another thing I think we added for the garden tour, and then those beautiful pots cascading over the pool. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Linda.